So I'm Simon Littlewood, and I'm the Group International Director of Random House, and that is a group department that covers the whole of our publishing, both Ealing and Vauxhall Bridge Road, but we have separate teams dedicated to those two places, and we also have specialist teams that cover regions such as Europe, Asia and others, so those are people focusing on those particular areas. And we're always talking about books in English. Very often people think that because it's overseas we're talking about foreign language, but that's not the case. We're talking about the very books that are made here in the English language. And I guess about 1 in 4 of the books that we sell as a group are sold outside the UK. For some of the very big brands, it's much more than that. For the Dan Browns or the Christopher Paulinis, those big international books, you can even get more being sold overseas. But that's the sort of overall picture. The first is meeting the constant requirement to marry the big picture, the strategic vision and planning, with the very insistent day-to-day detail. Secondly, there's keeping on top of the amazing varied riches of Random House's publishing output and at least appearing to be knowledgeable about it. And then the third thing, which is becoming very much part of our lives now, is looking into the digital crystal ball and trying to assess the different rates of change and modes of change that will affect us all around the world. I'd say that the emerging markets are Europe and East Asia. In both those places we've got long-term board-sponsored international strategies where we're devoting resource and particularly trying to develop those markets. And then India is emerging, and there we've got a new fledgling company, only 5 or 6 years old, which is doing local publishing as well as selling the books that are published in London. And of course what's common to all those places is the rise of the English language. And as people get better and better at English, and as it becomes more and more the international language of everything, politics, commerce, fashion, journalism, people's expertise in that language improves and they come to be able to read, which of course is the top level of language use, reading a novel. That's what those 3 strategic territories have got in common, and that's why they're so important to us. While English language territories are really leading the digital charge, the market penetration of e-books is very variable as between Germany or Singapore or Japan. And the key to it is going to be when the local language publishing really takes off in e-form, and then we will be able to slipstream that. So what we're doing is watching what's happening in all those various territories in the digital area and preparing ourselves to take advantage of it when it takes off. A lovely book called The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night Time, which as soon as it arrived in manuscript generated enormous enthusiasm, and it reminded me and everybody else that ours is a passion and enthusiasm business, and that's what it's built on. And I can remember that the author himself was completely overwhelmed when he saw how passionate the team was about his book. It's a book that you can recommend to everybody, and it's gone on to be on recommended reading lists all over the world in schools and colleges. And it's been a tremendous thrill to watch that build and continue year after year. We have very well established companies in Australia and New Zealand, and a joint venture in South Africa. And the baby of the family is Random House India in New Delhi, which is only half a dozen years old or so. And what those companies have in common is that as well as distributing the books that are published here, and some of the books that are published in New York, they do their own local publishing. And we think it's very important for those companies to be part of and reflect that local culture and not just bring in books from outside. So that in India, for example, we're publishing books on Indian subjects by Indian authors for an Indian readership. And that's an integral part of the activity that those companies undertake. There is also a very well-established and thriving company in Toronto, in Canada, but that is folded into Random House US rather than Random House UK, and is part of them, but they still sell our Random House UK books for us in Canada. We have, for the past decade or more, pursued a strategy of recruiting locally based people, so that we've got people on the ground in Germany, Hungary, Holland, France, Hong Kong, Japan. And we've pursued that plan because we believe that people who are embedded in that local environment of book selling and publishing will deliver better results than somebody who picks up a bag and travels into the territory every so often. There are very good reasons for not applying that to all territories, and we do cover some places from the hub, from here in London. But on the whole, that spread of locally based salespeople has delivered fantastic results for us.